Okay, we are recording, ladies. Welcome. We're back.
Hey, yeah, good to be
Hi,
here.
great to be here. Yeah.
So we have Jeanne and Zuzanna and Janine and myself, Eileen. And we are essentially making this up as we go, right? I mean, we're sharing, we're coming together, we're seeing how we're similar, we're alike. We've had very similar lives. We've kind of established that in the previous videos. And so the intention for today, the topic for today is the way forward. What is the way forward? And that's obviously going to be from the viewpoint of what we have learned and discovered and unraveled through our own experiences and our own inner guidance that we have established and work with on a daily basis. It's really our way of life now from everything that we've discussed before. I can see that that's something that we all share, is this trust and confidence in this inner guidance, which is based on love. So I would say first off that love is the way forward.
There you go.
Yeah, so what I'd like to do is just close our eyes and let's just do a short breathing for ourselves and for anyone who's listening. Let's just breathe in through the bottoms of our feet, all the way up into our core. Feel our centeredness and invite this loving presence in to guide and to inspire and to heal. And we speak from this place, we share from this place in alignment with love. Thank you. So, I've been reflecting on what we're doing together, and I really celebrate this opportunity to find you and to share with you and reflect with you and invite you to bring forward your visions for this time, your guidance for this time, what you have noted works for you, and perhaps what you practice if that comes up. But I want to say too that even though this is founded on and through the lens of love, I have often seen probable realities for some who are in fear, who may go down a trajectory of fear that is quite unpleasant. And I don't want to pretend that doesn't exist, that those probabilities don't exist. But what I like to focus upon is what we can do, how we are empowered always in these times to find that vibrational resonant connection to source love that guides us through these times where, yes, the old world appears to be breaking down, but the four of us have shared that we've seen this coming. We've been shown that this was coming. And we can look at it through the lens of fear and be very afraid if we're attached to the world as we've known it, or we can, sink more deeply inside of ourselves and hear this guidance and feel the light that is pulling us into a new way of being if we're available to receive that. So I'd just like to open up the floor here for what anyone might want to share about perhaps what you've been seeing or receiving lately about the way forward in these times. Does anything come up for any of you?
Well, I have something to share, and it's not recent, but what I find interesting that's been happening to me since we've started these conversations are the memories that are coming to me that are relevant to now. You know, being somebody who's had these experiences my whole life, a lot of it got kind of stored away and wasn't very conscious. And today, I know, coming to this call, I realized right after I clicked, okay, sign me in. I didn't know what our plan was. And I thought, wait, did we have a focus? And I asked you, and okay, yeah, we have a focus with this idea of what is the way forward, what tools work for us, what guidance have we been given. I'm like, okay, yeah, I got it. But I hadn't prepared like I usually do. But that feels not by accident. And it feels absolutely relevant to the question, because that is the tool that I'm finding to be the most effective, which is to let go of my whole need to plan, need to control little details, and really surrender to the flow and feel the energy through my heart. And the memory that came, and kind of saying that's like how I can explain it, but the memory that came to me that where I experienced that was in a dream experience many, many years ago. It was kind of one of those experiences that was in between like a full out otherworldly experience, but this wasn't a dream. And it had that quality of being something much more. The sensations were off the chart. The colors were indescribable once it got to a certain point, that kind of thing. So to start, the dream started, I found myself in the middle of the ocean drowning. And I was very cold. I was exhausted. I was terrified. I was alone. I didn't know how I got there. I was suddenly aware that I'm in the middle of the ocean and these waves, big swells are overtaking me. And I couldn't keep my head above water. And I was remembering my life. I was so distraught. I didn't want to be unavailable to my kids. And I was just devastated that I knew I was doomed. There was no way out. And I kept sinking, I would sink and then I would fight my way back up, and I would sink and I would fight my way back up. And at one point I was so exhausted. I couldn't do it anymore. I tried to kick and fight my way back up, and I was done. And then that's when it started to shift. And it wasn't a dream anymore. It became the blackness that was below me became tangible in a way. It was blacker than black. It was, when I kind of get into these places where I'm in an experience space that's in another dimension or another realm, everything becomes so amplified, and there's no way to, I know you guys know this, there's no way to put words to it, but the blackness was not black, it was blacker than black. And the coldness that was reaching up to my feet was just terrifying. And it took me, it was like I had no control, and I couldn't do anything about it. But then, and it was the fight to knowing that I'm underwater, I can't breathe, and I could feel my lungs burning. I could just feel all this pressure. And I suddenly had to breathe. It was like that the body takes over, and I sucked everything in, and I didn't die. Instant, oh, I can breathe underwater. I mean, it went just this terrifying, horrific experience to realizing I don't know what, I was breathing underwater. And the contrast between what that was to the leap into joy that I experienced was off the chart. And it completely transformed the entire experience. I was just gliding through the water and swimming almost like a mermaid. And I had this vision of dolphins, and one came to me, and suddenly I was on the surface of the water, and we were playing. And this is where I feel it's relevant to now in this question of how to navigate and what our role is in this transition period. And it's the being so much more conscious to the process of reality creation itself. And that's what I was doing. And it was exquisite. I mean, I can't even begin to describe it in a way that would do it justice. But I remember distinctly becoming aware that the dolphin was almost reading my mind in a sense, but almost doing it ahead of time. But it was just this perfect synchronization where I would have this thought like, wow, I wonder what it would feel like if I kind of rolled over and I was floating on my back and the dolphin jumped over me, and instantly he was doing it. And then, I mean, it just became this dance of joy. And the more we interacted, the more my heart exploded, you know, just into this awareness of it's me, that I am making this happen. And it's the most fun I have ever had in my life. And it was so empowering and so beautiful. And the water just became, you know, the colors again. And so I always at some point go toward the colors, because it just becomes so much more than what the color wheel shows us here. And I just, it's so interesting. I'm like, wow, I haven't thought about that one for a really, really long time. And yet the question, you reminding me, Eileen, what our focus is today, it flooded back. And it's this practice of doing it consciously and doing it in our joy. And that's the key. So it's the love that you mentioned, but also the joy, and bringing those two together, and then embodying that energy. And it's a tool. It's not just this. And that's what has been challenging for me for many, many years, is wanting to be somebody who grounds all of this in a sense. You know, yeah, I've had a lot of experiences that are outside of consensus reality, and no, I can't really explain it to you, and no, I don't know what it really is, and it's bigger than anything I can try to explain. And yet I always wanted to build enough of a bridge from where I am in this really earthy, grounded Virgo place that I am, to make it make sense, and enough with enough groundedness that somebody could grab onto it and start to play with it in their mind a little bit. So it's like kind of bringing the it's not an, you know, esoteric, philosophical, woo-woo kind of, you know, who knows what experience. It's a very real, it's more real than real. And that's the part that has always really hit home for me. You know, we're not just talking about something that was amazing and beautiful and fulfilling and, you know, had this physical experience, but it was more real than real. And that is what we're moving into, I feel, and these tools that we're using, learning how to be in the energies of love and joy, and then bring this reality here and into, you know, we're kind of merging with that right now. So yeah, that's it. Thank you. It's like, I mean, that's one of my favorite experiences that I've had over the years, because it was so overwhelmingly beautiful and fun. You know, the fun factor was off the chart too. You know, it was just pure play.
Yeah.
No agenda, it was pure play. So.
And if I may, I just want to reflect that back to you with that for me, those experiences have been markers, so that I know what it feels like now. And this is something that we can move forward with.
Yes.
But this is not something separate from us, like, oh, I had such a beautiful experience and now I go back to the world. You know, it's, no, these things are here to show us this is who you actually are. Right?
Yes, guidance. It's guidance.
Yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you, Jeannie.
It reminds me of a dream, a waking dream that I had for many, many years myself, Jeannie. Wonderful, wonderful to hear the joy and the finding of that part of yourself too, because I believe that we are joy-seeking beings at our core. So that's a huge part of us. So that reminds me of my dream that I had, very different, but similar in a way, that right from a little girl, I had this dream that I would find myself in a house and I could feel a presence in the house, and the presence was a dark presence, was a heavy presence, and it's like I'm alone in the house, and I could feel the presence would be growing, and I could feel somebody looking for me in the house, and always I'd go into fear, into a very dark, heavy place, and always I'd run. And it just happened over and over, and I could feel the presence getting closer and closer. I was never actually caught, but for years I would run. And then one day I thought, no more running. What's going to happen now if I stop and turn and face? So, which I did. I stopped, I turned to face what was chasing me, and there was absolutely nothing there. But I had faced it, and I felt a huge shift in myself, a very powerful moment within me, that I had stopped running, that I had simply turned to face it, and there was absolutely nothing behind me. And yet for years, the nothing had chased me and scared, scared me deeply. So, I didn't actually find a joy within the dream, but I found a powerful place in myself that to stop and face that whatever it is, the fear, is never ever as anything as bad as what we believe it's going to be. It's the fear itself, of course, as the four of us know. My knowing of life is that we're here for love, that we are love, we were born from love, and that every experience we have here in this lifetime is for love. So it's either through love's presence or through love's absence, we are going to learn about love. And it's our choice. And it's our choice which road we take, especially right now with this, with arriving right at the precipice of the new world changing, coming into form. And so it's like we can have the choice of looking outside of ourselves and seeing the stories and identifying ourselves with the stories and feeling the separateness from who we are within. Or we can look within ourselves and get to know ourselves via our feelings and our thoughts and our beliefs and our attitudes and everything that is within us, and get to know ourselves on that level. And then there's no separateness then, because the separateness comes from identifying ourselves from the outside rather than getting to know ourselves and identifying ourselves from the inside. So I believe that right now we're at the most powerful moment that we've ever been at to create the pathway forward for ourselves, go within and get to know ourselves on deeper and deeper and deeper levels, or stay without rather than within. So look at what's going on in the world and use that as our identity, and feel that separateness for as long as we look, from outside of ourselves. So it's a fabulous, fabulous topic that we're talking about.
Yeah. And I was just beaming when you were telling the dream, because I had that same exact dream.
Oh, did you really?
Exactly. Well, there were some very minor differences. It was the same thing. I was in my childhood home, dreaming I was there, and this horrific monster, I knew it was a monster, and it was living in the house, and I could feel its presence in that way. Mm. And I'm sharing this because I got the aha from hearing both of you speak about this. So I just want to say that when I got to that point of just total fatigue, the drowning part, or the I'm so tired of running from this, it's almost like that surrender point. Like I don't even really care. Just, let me die, or let it eat me, or let it consume me, whatever. And so I faced it, and I asked it, why are you chasing me? Why are you doing this to me? And I need to know this. And so what it then started to do is turn from this horrific monster looking thing. I mean, it was the worst of the worst that I could imagine and form it in my dream. And slowly from the inside out, it started, a gold white light started growing inside of it. And it changed into this enormous angelic being that just beamed this love to me. And so then there's my marker, that energetic marker. And also what I see here in this pattern is that there was a surrender. There was a, I can't do this anymore. I don't have the energy to do this anymore. And then that's when our will kicks in. And the will is something that I find that most people have difficulty understanding, and it's hard to explain. So the will in these scenarios kicks in and we go, I'm going to engage directly with this evolutionary process through this transformational time. I choose to do this. So once that will is engaged, then it's like the universe starts responding to us and saying, you're here. Thank you. You're here. You're present now. So now let's get on with it together. See, we're so used to the outside world dictating to us what's going to happen next. What's going to happen? You know, we watch the news. Tell us what's going to happen next. It doesn't work that way. Right now, we're in a magical moment where we can discover this and we can begin to recreate our lives with our will engaged in moving forward. So perfect. I just love that that's where we started and that we share in that empowering moment.
I wanted to share, both of you, Jeannie and Janine, reminded me of dreams that I've had that were really pertinent, I think. Jeannie's dream, I've had lots of dreams recently leading up to where we are right now, you know, the being aware of the coronavirus for me, I guess, was in March, that it would impact my life. I was aware of it before that. And I had lots of water dreams, floods and things like that. And I think it was in the autumn time that I had a dream memory or a memory dream of a past life when this happened again. I was in a camp of a small amount of people, and I seemed like I was the one who was organizing things, and everything had started to melt sooner than we had expected, and we had to break camp and get the hell out of Dodge. And I remember looking down, walking across some ice and looking down and seeing butterflies in this ice, and they were thawing. Everything was thawing out. And I wasn't afraid, but I knew what to do. And when I woke up, I felt like it was, you know, you'll know what to do when it's time. You know, that's been something that I've had in my life for a long time, of being told you won't know each step until it's time to take that step, you know. And so that was the first dream that Jeannie reminded me of having that sense that I'll know what to do when it's time, and I've already done this in the past, you know, kind of have had practice. And then Janine's and Eileen's dreams about being in a house sort of thing. I had something similar, but not quite. I had years and years of dreams of a tiger chasing me. And it would get close, and sometimes it would grab my sacrum. I mean, that's, you know, symbolic, right? And sometimes I would be in a small room trying to lock the door, and its gigantic paw would be coming around the door at me, you know, and then I'd wake up, you know, and I'd just be terrified. And I believe it was last year that I had the dream that I was in the country, and I was on a country road, and I saw these animals running, different kinds of animals. One was a a rhea, which is a down under bird, isn't it, Janine?
Don't know if I've heard of that before. Must be way down under.
Way down there.
A rhea, a wild boar with the tusk things. I can't remember what the other one was, and a tiger coming along, and we were all running on this road together. And I remember thinking, because the tiger was coming up behind me, but it passed me, and I remembered being surprised that I wasn't afraid, because I remembered that, you know, the tiger always showed up, and then I wasn't afraid anymore, and I haven't had any more tiger chasing me dreams. So it was in the sense of finally getting it, because I had it in my head finally, before I had this one dream, that I needed to make friends with the tiger. You know, this is ridiculous to keep being scared out of my wits and, you know, being able to face the tiger. But I didn't actually have to turn and face the tiger. It was just that we were all running along this road together. And I remember the feeling of running was such freedom. It was almost like flying, but I wasn't flying, but it was such freedom. I had such strength and power in my body that this physical body wouldn't have, even if when I was in my prime, right? You know, it was just this incredible feeling. So, you know, those were my dreams. The sense of you know, knowing that I have the strength within me, knowing that I have the power within me, and knowing that I'll know what to do when it's time. And of course, I still fall into the sense of, you know, well, gee, I'd really like to know where I'm going to go or what I'm going to do after lockdown ends, if it indeed ends or whatever, you know, what's that? But I don't, and I'll know when it comes, because I knew before what I was going to do that landed me here. So it's
Trust.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Trust and faith. Those are the two things that kept coming up in any of my conversations with my team. You know, trust and faith, and everything's going to be okay.
Right.
You know?
Absolutely.
And that everything's going to be okay is really dependent on that trust and faith. You know, is dependent on how much you know yourself.
Yeah.
You know, that's been important to me for decades. I mean, I've been working on that for decades. And acceptance, you know, acceptance of what is.
But what we're all talking about here is it begins with facing the fear, right? It's like, face it head on. Don't dance around it or run from it, because that's your opening right there. Is just the willingness to say, I see you and I'm tired of this, right?
Right.
That leads to our knowing and our, you know, our guidance. That's really where our guidance comes from, when we're willing to show up in that space.
I think it like opens the chute sort of thing, doesn't it? You know, and boosh, you know, it's all blocked up with all this fear and everything like that. Right. And then it just sort of opens the chute, and then the next empowerment, for lack of a better word, can happen.
Exactly. There's room for it.
There's room.
Arrive. Yeah. What, Jeannie?
I was going to add to that. It's through my experiences, and what I've gotten is when I'm able to stop the fight of my fear, my natural state just expands forward, which is complete kindness, complete acceptance, complete love, just being filled from the inside. And it happens for me. It's interesting because this is reminding me of another experience I had, knowing that they were coming. It was kind of just one of those ominous feelings of they're coming. And I knew I didn't have any control over that. And I found myself in a dark place. I was in a building that was just this massive room. I don't know if it was like a warehouse or, I mean, it didn't feel that kind of stark, but it was just, I remember the sensation of really high ceilings and windows lining one whole wall. And when I had the awareness of their coming, the next moment of awareness was, oh, they're already here. And the next moment of awareness was oppressive. It was a presence so close to me that there was no hiding, there was no running, there was no fighting. And I instantly melted. And that's the best sensation, best description I have for the sensation for me when the fear gets that acute, and that let go moment, everything melts. And at that moment, my hand was held. And it was such a comforting feeling of connection. And that's it. I mean, it ended there. I don't remember if anything occurred after or if it just ended there, but I remember leading up to it. I remember the building of the fear, and then the moment that it melted with my awareness that I couldn't do anything to change my experience. So I think the message, and this has been a message that is repeated through these experiences and also directly, and it's that when we not only face the fear, but we don't fight it, you're
acceptance of what is, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
it's complete acceptance, and then you're safe.
Yes.
It's kind of the opposite of what our instincts tell us.
Mhm.
It's through that complete acceptance that we find that we are safe. We find the knowing that we are already safe. There's no need to fight. There's no need for the fear. It doesn't exist.
Right. And the fear is usually in the mental realm, right?
Yeah.
It's like,
Yes.
oh, this is going to happen. This is going to happen. That's going to happen. Oh my God. And so that's that chatter, right? That's happening that takes us away from our being, away from being present and accepted. So it
Which is
really
the natural
is true.
state.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
the natural state.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought up that term natural state. I use that one a lot when I write and when the messages come through. Natural state is used a lot because I hear so many people from the past, from the old world, saying that, we're just going to turn into light and dissolve and everything's going to be beautiful and we're going to fly away. And it's just, I'm not seeing that. I'm seeing us engaging with it fully, with our will, accepting our divinity, accepting this growth, and a willingness to move forward with it. So it's gonna be okay. So let's transition, if we can, into what does this look like? I mean, we've hinted at what this might look like. In a variety of scenarios, these stages of facing the fear, accepting what is, and opening up the space for this guidance to fill us, to love us, to help us move forward. People are probably going to want to know, so how does that, what does it mean we're in lockdown? What does it mean, we're all waiting to find out what's going to happen? Are we always going to be wearing masks now? Are we, so all of these kinds of questions come in from people. And you've probably all, gotten those questions in one way, shape, or form. How do we move forward from here? And yes? Did somebody squeak?
Yeah, I did. I squeaked from down under.
Well, then please do elaborate.
So my guidance has showed me that this time of time out, self-isolation, is the space that's been given to us to understand ourselves on new levels, to, instead of doing the same old, being in the daily routine, going to work, coming home, turning the TV on, being continually distracted from ourselves, we have been given time and space, which is, this reality is all about time and space, to take a breath, to step back from the distractions and to start feeling into ourselves and how we would like change to happen, and what that change may look like for us, and what is not working for us anymore, and a time to delve deeply into the feelings of that, and what could we do within this time and space, given that we could start bringing change to our life. Because my guidance has showed me that the new world is formed from inside our heart. So it is not something that we are going to step into. It's something that's going to grow from within us.
Yep.
Yep, absolutely.
And
it's not
through us. Yep.
And also something that I've had to say to quite a few people, it's not that you can sit back and allow those such as us here and so many like us to create that new world so that you can then step into it. You have to resonate with it yourself to be able to step into it. So you have to do the inner work to be able to merge into this beautiful new world, you know, and this time now is the beginning of really connecting deep within ourselves and allowing that to happen.
Right.
So,
using that will and engaging with it.
Yes.
It is an enormous gift. And so I'd like to just comment that that's totally yes. I see all of our heads bobbing. And that when people ask me about this, it's like my guidance has said, don't get involved in any of the stories about who created it, why did it happen, what, you know, all of these extensions of stories from the story. It's like, we got to build a new story. Somebody did this to us. We're a victim. Let it go, because the opportunity is right here, right now, and it doesn't matter. It makes no difference at all who did what from the story.
And I call the mind the storyteller. It will latch on out there into the world stage of anything that's going on and elaborate it and create it to be more and more. And then we come along to somebody else who's right in their mind, and the storytellers come together, and by crikey, there's another whole chapter that's formed in the story. So the heart is not a storyteller. The heart is the truth teller. So it's about falling into the truth within rather than staying in the stories up in the mind. So what it's all about, the new world is a heart-centered world. And we're heart-centered beings. We will fit beautifully within that new world once we learn to control the mind and live from our heart.
Yeah, and
that's
our natural state.
The parallels that show up when we have conversations.
Sorry.
Just listening to you two talk about the story. I've been writing for several years now, and it has morphed into what feels like a book. And it has a title, and it is called Free the Story. And I love the parallel, you know, it's like, it's exactly what you're talking about. And what feels like is happening right now is the hooks that we all have into our personal stories and the story at large, the collective, they've been pulled back, and it's loosening that up. So our attachment to all of that has weakened, which is the blessing. Like Janine said, you know, we've been given this opportunity, this time and space to be able to now reflect on our role in that, and what don't we like, what do we like, what is coming forward that we want to move into. And I just had to jump in and say, yes, free the story. That's what it has been for me. And that's the phrase that's been in my head for years now, is free the story, free the story.
Yeah.
Free the
Totally. And moving it just a step further on from that too, is that the guidance has showed me that in the new world, we live in the moment. All the power that we have in reality, as we girls know here, is right in the moment, in the present moment experience. And so in the new world, we live in the moment, right? Creative within the moment. And so we have to be free of the stories to be able to live blissfully in that world. Because if we've got the mind running programs all the time, imagine what we're going to create for ourselves in a world where we create instantly. And that's how the new world is going to come forward. Yeah, so
that was the dolphin dream experience.
That was the dolphin dream,
yes.
So beautifully demonstrated in the dolphin dream.
Yeah.
Sorry about coughing there. I got a tickle in my throat. So, what else? What else about the way forward maybe feel into some questions people have asked us about how to do this?
Well, something occurs to me, something that I think all of you mentioned, the sense of waiting for when it's all over, or when we're going to go back to normal or anything like that. That is such a huge waste of time to wait. You know, I've done that in my life way before even the coronavirus was, you know, a twinkling in whatever's eye. And it's a waste of time to be waiting for something. You have to be creative in the moment. And I think that what we're being shown with this time is that we're it's sort of like in our face that we're creating our own reality. If we're antsy or you know, waiting, you know, for it to all be over, or if we are enjoying and doing something new and creating something, you know, not because, but in spite of, or whatever, you know, what's happening right now, if we're still growing and learning about ourselves internally, okay, so I can't go out, what do I do? You know, am I going to sit here and twiddle my thumbs? Am I going to bitch and moan about it? You know, or am I going to do something creative and wonderful? And this sense of waiting, to me, is kind of key, in that if we're going to create in the present moment, there will not be any waiting. So we got to get out of that sense of waiting. We just have to let that go. And the stories that Janine and Jeannie mentioned, you know, the stories, when I had that box dissolving thing, not only did my categories dissolve, but then I started through Eileen's suggestion, I think when we had our first session together, to let go of the stories, because we're creating in the moment, and we're perpetuate the stories that we believe about ourselves and about the world are perpetuating it. God damn it, you know,
Yeah.
it's keeping it there. It's keeping it there. And if we can let go of who we think we are or who we think we should be, we can become who we actually are. We can discover who we actually are.
Bingo.
And I mean, isn't that the greatest show on earth? I mean, isn't that worth hanging out for, man? So I would say to anybody who's may watch this, that, you know, if you find yourself waiting for anything, you know, waiting for the eggs to boil, or waiting for the dryer to buzz, or whatever like that, you know, get on with the present moment and think about what you can do that's creative to know yourself, to learn about yourself. You can just notice, oh, I'm waiting again, you know. Could I go outside and stand on the ground for 10 minutes with my feet on the ground and look at the sun, look at the moon, you know, honor these blessed things that are around us, that we can interact with. We can, you know, they're sentient beings. The earth and the grass and the trees and the moon and the sun and the birds that come, your cat, you know, everything knows what's going on.
Yeah, the source of all we can connect with. Yeah.
Right.
And so that's so well said. Thank you, Zuzanna.
Thank you.
So why do we distract ourselves? Because we don't want to be here, because of what we're going to feel, what we know is there, which is fear. And we think that it's going to consume us. But through all of my experiences, whether they're dreams, and I know you guys can say this as well, through the contact experiences I had, where the vibration is so high, and when it comes into my lower vibrational, where I've been vibrating years ago when this was happening, you know, quite often, that fear was just, I mean, it was terror. It was absolute terror. So I see now that all of those things happened so that I would go through these deaths and rebirths, death, rebirth, death, rebirth, to show me that I am not that fear. I die to it and I rise again. I die to it, I rise again. And this increases the vibration as well. This increases the resonance so that we are, I think Jeannie and Janine mentioned this, maybe all of us have, that we're then pulled forward again by resonance into this higher state of being. Not as an airy fairy way to explain, or, you know, people like to laugh and say, oh, you're just loving lighters. If you went through the deaths, the many deaths that I and those like me here and many more, you would know that that's not true. You can't just dismiss it as, oh, that's just airy fairy stuff. No, please.
It's realer than real, you know. It's like Jeannie said, you know, it's
and
realer
terrifying. It's like, face your fear now. You don't get to run from it. You don't get to go, well, I'm just going to go watch TV or eat potato chips or have some chocolate. No, it's here. It's here.
We've had time to do it for a long, long time, and now there's no more time to not do it.
That's right. We're here.
Before, it was easier to do. If we were able to face it, it was easy peasy compared to like where we're, you know, if you haven't been doing it for all those decades. And then now it's just like, you know, it's the 11th hour. It's do or die sort of thing.
And this is about embodiment. This is about embodying this grace that we are, our natural state.
Yeah.
And it's not about going somewhere else.
Right.
It's about fully being here.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I would add that, kind of touching back on how Susan was talking about being creative in the present moment. What's coming to me now is that more than ever before, it doesn't matter the doorway that you walk through. So, you know, I know for a lot of people, and a lot of people I've talked to, there's an anxiety around, what should I do? What is my thing?
Should. Yeah.
Am I doing the right thing? I got to find that and I got to do it. And it's kind of, and I lived in that space for a long time. It's kind of this frantic energy of clawing yourself forward because it's not quite right. But what I'm getting now is that the activity, the content, whatever that the naming of that thing is, doesn't matter anymore. And it's much more about the how you are engaging with it. So it's the being present to whatever it is. It does not matter. It's the practice of being present. So if you're doing something that feels like this grand, purposeful, amazing thing, that's awesome. Be present to it. If you're sitting on the toilet, be present to it. I mean, it doesn't matter.
Right.
That's the
really
part that's really being impressed upon me, is to use every activity, every moment of thought, every idea, every moment of stillness, every moment as a moment of practice of being present to yourself and to this energy around you and to your own heart. Because that's the way through. So just want to give people permission to let themselves off the hook because it's not about the thing. It's not about the activity. It's not about the purpose. It's not about finding it. It's about being present wherever you are.
Right.
Perfect. Because all of that is attached to the old world.
Yes.
Exactly.
Persons,
Productivity.
places, and things. Yeah.
Right.
That's all going, that's all
Monetizing.
dissolving. What's here now?
I often have
That's the essence.
people say to me, oh, I know I'm here for a purpose. Can you help me find my purpose? And I say to every single one of them, your purpose is to find yourself. that is your purpose here, is to reconnect with the more expanded part of who you are. It's you may be here to hold space for the new world to form, because every one of us are in our own way creating that new world. But your purpose here is you came to find yourself, to experience yourself in a physical form from a higher perspective, and you're just on the pathway to that now. So it's, you know, because often people feel like they're not fulfilling their purpose here in being in service to others. But first and foremost, we have to be in service to ourselves. That's the greatest service of all. And growing up in the old world, it was labelled, it could be labelled self-centred, self-absorbed, selfish. But I say to people, it's actually selfless to be centred on yourself first, because when you find that love in yourself, you then, it's like the goblet that overflows with love. Then you have so much more to pour out into the world, so much more creative activity, so much more passion to give to the world and to give to others. So it's all about, service is all about to self first, and that's how the new world's going to and is forming right now.
I agree. And then we just, in this new world, it just emerges from us, and it starts to show us, oh, look what I'm doing. And I love it.
Yes.
I love it. Just like this, just our coming together like this. We're not planning and strategizing and trying to figure out, you know, what are we doing here? It's just happening. It's just unfolding. And this is so much joy for me, just to be a part of it and to see what happens, right? Just show up in joy and see what happens.
Jump out of bed in the morning and pull back the curtains and, oh my gosh, good morning, beautiful new day. Look at you, blue sky. Look at you, sunshine. Or look at you, cloudy day. Look at you, rain, you know, and feeling the joy of it all. You know, that's how it will be, and that's how it's becoming now for so many. It's like having that passionate connection and that joyful connection with each moment, because we've learned to be present within the moment, as Jeanne was saying before, being present with every breath we take in every moment, and understanding that what we see on the outside of us is a reflection in some way of what's happening within us. So when we let go of the stories and we start seeing the beauty, it's like we start really trusting in who and what we are, because we know we're creating that beauty outside of ourselves from inside ourselves. It's a magical world, ladies. It's a magical world.
It
is a
is.
magical world. It occurs to me that some people that might be watching this, you know, if they're in really unpleasant situations, what we're saying might sound like absolute bullshit, but I will say that I have been in some very unpleasant situations, and I know that this works. And I can give you an example. About 8 years ago or so, I was in a very unpleasant situation, and I didn't want to be in it, but I thought, okay, well, I have to put my money where my mouth is and just kind of accept what is, you know. So I was coming back. I was living in New York City at the time, which is a very challenging place for me to live, and my situation was very challenging. I had this wonderful opportunity to work at the American Museum of Natural History, and also I sketched there weekly. So I was just coming back on the subway from a shift there, and as I got out of the subway walking home, and I thought, you know, I can do this. I can be here. I can put up with whatever it is, because this thing, drawing or being at the museum, is so amazing. And everybody there loved me, and I loved everybody there. And I thought, you know, I can do this. And the next day, because I looked at my journal, I thought it was a couple months later, but the next day, everything shifted. Well, I guess I'll just say what it is. My husband said, I think you should leave. And I said, you're right. It was incredible. I mean, it was a very uncomfortable situation. I thought, okay, I got myself into this. I'm not going to be the one to leave. I'm going to see this out. And boy, oh boy. I mean, it was like instantaneous. And this was 8 years ago, you know. I decided that I could do this. I could put up with whatever. And this part of my life would be joyful. And this part of my life would be like, okay, you know, I just have to do it. And the next flipping day, you know, like you hear in I don't know, people who are more famous than we are, you know, I'll say, you know, if you accept the situation, or, you know, you get to a place of acceptance and life shifts. Well, yeah, it does. You know, if you can be okay with what is, no matter what it is, it will shift. But if you're in a situation, which I have also been in, where you're clamped down with fear and horror, and it's just, you cannot see a way out, and you're just like, you know, let me out of here. You want to kill yourself, you know, maybe you try. And I got out of that too. When I was
I have as well.
when I was younger, I had none of this stuff that I have now to hold on to, to realize. I mean, this was before, you know, in the 70s, I was a young person, and none of this stuff was available to me. None of this stuff was probably even out there in quantity as it is now. So I got out of that too, and I got out of it alive, and I got out of it pretty sane, I think. You know, I still was me in essence, because here I am now. You know, I'm not in corporate America going, oh my God, I'm going to jump out the window because everything's fallen to pieces, you know.
I'm so glad you brought this up. Thank you, Zuzanna, because it's really important that that we do acknowledge the people who are in deep fear, deep pain right now, who this may sound just, you know, like if we use the words magical and joy, there's not a resonance with it.
Yeah, if there's no connection, it just goes.
Yeah. So it's important for us to share, you know, the magic and joy that has come about as a result of facing that monster, right? Or from facing the fear of drowning. But we started with that. And so we did have to, yes, those were dreams. And I could tell you at least a dozen actual life stories that were just as terrifying and just as painful.
Yes.
And on the brink of suicide.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
I mean, that's why we're having those dreams, after all, to a certain extent, is to like show, you know, in a kind of a safe way, you know, this is what's going on.
Right. And really what I have found, you know, through my life is that whether we're dreaming at nighttime or we're having these daytime experiences, it's all still very symbolic. If we look at these circumstances in our life and just say, well, what if this was a dream? How would I interpret this dream? It's the same thing.
That's awesome. I love it.
They're all symbols, you know, and it's like, the question is, do I prefer this? Yes or no? No. So let's change it. Let's engage with it. Let's face it, and let's choose to move through it. Engage our will and say, hey, I am powerful enough. I can shift this. I can do this. So we're back to that will thing again, which has really been, I'm getting a lot of, you know, messages and guidance about will now, because the will for me is that divine mother that is buried underneath all the pain and fear. And she really needs to be released now. She needs to be set free so that she can rise up within us. And, you know, the heart of heaven can meet the heart of earth. Because as the Maya say, we are that bridge between the heart of heaven and the heart of earth. We are the ones who bring the father and the mother together. And then if you want to take it a step further, and I think I wrote about this recently in a blog post, and this is when that marriage takes place again between the feminine and the masculine, and then we can give birth to our divine self here. And that's who wants to arrive. It's our true self. And it's such a foreign thing to us now that when we have these experiences of angels and glorious beings, and, you know, we want to, oh, I should be worshiping you. In actuality, that's just another symbol for who we are, that we have disconnected from. We've said that, oh, that's other, you know, or that's other with the bad people in our life or the good people in our life. No, these are aspects of ourself. It's calling you to look at this and to feel this and redefine who you are and take responsibility for it, because we're told so much in our lives that we are not that powerful. And so that's my, you know, Zuzanna, when you brought that up, this is the passion that comes out of me, is relating to all those times in my life when I was told all these things and I accepted it, and it isn't true. We are extraordinarily powerful beings connected to love. Our source loves and guides us and is just simply inviting us in this time to re-engage with our will and choose to re-engage with this love that is at the core of our being. And that is more than possible. It's nobody else's fault. It's the fault within us. It's the fault between who we've been told we are and who we actually are, if you want to call it a fault, right?
Yeah.
So
it's society also has been set up in such a way that it keeps us small, believing that we're small and limited, you know, from every area of our society. So really, we're the first generation that's stood on the edge of that society from outside it, looking in and seeing, if you like, its faults or its deliberate creation to keep us small and limited, and keeping us away from that incredible inner power that is the truth of us. So, you know, but the ones coming up behind us, my children, my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren, that every generation is deeper in their knowing of who and what they are.
yeah.
We're the ones that have had the sickles and broken through the forests, the woods, the trees, and they're coming along behind, and they're going to be the ones that rebuild, you know, the structures. And although that's all happening in our generation too, it's the younger ones behind us that are really going to get in there and build the new world up from the grassroots on a physical level. So,
yeah. That's true. And also I just to finish my thought, or what came as you. Oh, no.
Eileen.
It came because of what you said. No. I'd like to add, I should say, that when I hear people talking about whatever victim story they're talking about the government is this, the Democrats are doing that, the Republicans are doing that, and there's this plan that they're all going to, you know, they're going to lock us down forever, and they're going to, whatever these frickin' stories are, it's like, you are not a victim. That is a distraction.
Yep.
That is a distraction from what you could be doing right now to connect to a higher vibrational reality. Because guess what? If you keep engaging with it, you're just going to go down that trajectory where you get to keep engaging with it. All those distractions, all those stories, you can make them up till the cows come home.
Yep.
Or you can rise above it and become the greater being that you are. That's the way I see it. And
choice.
It is a choice. I just can't get on board with any one of these stories. I don't care from which direction it comes. You know, people say, how come you never talk about politics? Why would I do that?
Exactly.
Why would I waste my time and energy with that?
Yeah.
I'm engaged with creation and making myself a clear vessel for something greater to come through. I don't agree that I am less than and that people can control and manipulate me. They have no power over you whatsoever if you embody the truth of who you are.
Absolutely. 100% agree with you, Eileen.
Thank you. I knew you would.
I would
Well,
emphasize too that it's real. It's not just what you're speaking to is not just an idea or a philosophy or a belief or
that's right.
any of that.
Mhm.
Another story. It's real. It's a place of empowerment that brings us into an awareness of being reality creators in a very real way.
Perfectly said.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the real world. This is the real us and the real world. We were born into an unreal world and we adapted to it.
I mean, isn't that funny, Eileen, how like probably all of us were told on multiple occasions, get your head out of the clouds, come into the real world. And that wasn't the real world.
If I had a
Yes.
nickel for every time I was told that,
Yeah,
Yeah.
me too.
wealthy.
Right? And
Me too.
now we've got a handle on the real world to an extent, you know, it's on the real world. And it's just like, yes, I'm so glad I didn't not believe in myself, you know, and really, really gave up. You know, I never ever gave up.
Obviously. No, I didn't either, and that's why we're here. And
Yeah.
we lost a lot of people like us, sensitives like us along the way. And I think of them often, and I honor them in their path. They weren't able to make it because it was too much. It's too hard. It's too difficult. I get it. And there's no, you know, from the universal perspective, there's no judgment about something like that. It's like, you know, we arrive here and we just go, okay, I can do this, you know, and I celebrate all of the sensitive people who are full of heart and light at their core, and that is everyone. But there are some who are in severe depression right now because they are these sensitive light beings who haven't been reinforced or encouraged. They can't find themselves in the world. They can't find a demonstration of this. And that is why I do this and why
I was going to say that exactly. Yeah, that's what I hope that this will give to somebody. If I had seen this 30, 40 years ago, oh my God, or even 50 years ago, oh my God, it would have made such a big difference. That's what I hope that, you know, at the very least, you know, that somebody who might see this and realize, oh, there's more of like me out there.
That's right. I've even
that's why I'm here.
Yeah, that's why I've said too that I'm talking to my younger self. I'm talking to my past self right now. I'm saying, you're gonna be fine. This is you're just living in the old paradigm, the old world. You're getting a lot of training. You're finding yourself. You're strengthening yourself. And it's all going to make sense. How many times were we told that by our own guidance? Have we said,
yeah, exactly.
It's all going to be okay. You'll understand when you get to this space where I think all of us just, when this started happening, it was like, oh my God, it's here. It's here, you know, and trying not to celebrate too much because
Right.
we're supposed to be sad or wait, what,
Yeah.
Right. That was an incredible experience.
Oh, the joy that I felt like, oh, finally we're here, which means, it's death. This is a time of death. It's going to happen physically, or it's going to happen while you keep your body. It's transformation, I should say. Many people will leave their bodies. There's no judgment about, oh, they're wrong, they had to leave their bodies. No, we're all choosing how we're transforming now. And I also want to say too that because I never found my place in the old world, always trying to find, and this will speak to the ones who are depressed and who can't find who they are and what they are here. That's how I always felt in the old world. There really, a couple things would come along, like music, and it'd be like, oh, this is what I am. But then it didn't make money. Everything that I loved didn't make money. So we can go on for another whole episode about that, right? But now it's like, okay, we're practicing this, right? We're navigating, we're going, okay, here we are. How do we do this? I know who I am. I know what I love. And where do I extend myself? And so in the old world for the last decade or so, I've been trying to find who I belong with this, speaking about my experiences, and, it changed my consciousness. And so where do I have value here? I want to have purpose and meaning, right? I want to be valued because I never felt valued in the old world. And so I've been trying to find where I fit. And just in the past few days, and I know this resonates in the group for a couple of you too, that it's like, it's not my job to find which thing most closely feels like it's me, and then fit into that, but rather to go, okay, here I am, I'm going to be fully who I am, practice being who I am, and then look who showed up. You guys.
Yeah, wow, cool.
That's how it works. That's how the universal vibration works. It reads vibration. So all we have to do is be ourselves, show up in life as ourselves, and the vibration is a fit every time to what that self or who that self is. Sometimes it's not what we want, but that just gives us an invitation to look at that part of ourselves that created that bit. And then other times as we open and we expand, life just meets us and it gets more beautiful and we get more connected to the beautiful parts, the loving parts, the kind, gentle, all those beautiful pieces. So yeah, it's, as I say, I always have to, it's an inside out job.
Yeah, what you said at the very beginning, Janine, was like, we take this time to learn about ourselves, and that brings us back full circle to that.
Full circle. And just another, so to you mentioning before, Zuzanna, about waiting. So if the universe reads vibration and we're in a vibration of waiting, we're going to get it. We could get it for the rest of our life, that we always have a sense of waiting for something.
Absolutely.
Because that's the vibration that's being read.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Perfectly said. Thank you. Okay, do we feel?
Oh, sorry, just finishing off, sorry, for myself. For myself, I'm not talking for anybody else.
You go, Janine.
We all know ourselves as a physical being. Like every human being here knows himself as a physical being. The parts that many forget about is the multi-layered parts. So we're physical, we're emotional, we're mental, we're energetic, and we're spiritual. And in going within ourselves and and connecting and learning and being consciously aware in the moment of what our triggers are and what we're creating, we start to realize that there are all these other layers and levels as well. And it's on the energetic level that the vibrational level that we are the most powerful creators, and that's in co-creation with the universe always.
Yes.
I just wanted to add that little piece
I
in
think that was very important to add. Thank you.
To
Jeanne.
remember too that we're doing it even if we don't know that we can. This idea
Right,
of
right. Yeah.
attracting and bringing circumstance, it's happening whether we're aware of it or not. Whether we
Right.
Totally.
Very
or
good.
not.
Thing. Very good.
And
Totally, Jenny.
like you say, when you have something that, 'cause of course we all want the warm and fuzzy feel good experiences to just rain down on us all of the time.
Mm.
And when those things come that trip us up or we're not expecting, or I don't want that, what a tremendous opportunity
Sure
to
is.
be able to turn it around, to be able to reclaim an aspect of self that got lost, that got discarded along the way.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's a very, very, what I'm noticing is how quickly, like the acceleration of finding the pieces and being able to reintegrate for me personally,
Yes.
a lot.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like, you know, you talk about cycles of life and kind of recircling back over stories over time, and you know, oh, this feels familiar, I did that about 8 years ago and this is a similar relationship. Okay, now I understand this part of it about myself, and then another 15 years goes by and you kind of oh, it's the same old story, and now I have this other piece of me that I've reclaimed. But what's happening now is it's like all of it's all in your face all at once.
Yes.
And not that it's all or nothing, but it kind of is. You know, it's a very demanding space with all of this amorphous energy that's around us, of being more present to and acknowledging our responsibility of the creations that are coming toward us, and be able to reclaim those pieces more wholly, so we don't have to recircle back and revisit. It's done. And I've had moments like that. Wow, I'm like, that's never going to happen again. I know it's not, because I can feel it. It's like you can pieces kind of click in like a puzzle piece, snap, and you're done.
Yeah.
And it's just that gives me goosebumps, kind of makes my hands sweat, because it's like, wow.
Integration. It's like, boom, got it.
Yeah.
Moving forward.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, we're creator beings. We are creator beings. We either create by default or we create deliberately and consciously.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I've been on the default mode for, you know, most of my life. I'm wondering, like, why is everything going like this? Well, default mode, people, you know.
Yeah.
And I've been on the conscious try hard mode for many, many years. And aware of it and sort of understanding it, and then getting so frustrated by, why is that here?
Yeah.
Just this form of confusion that I would get. But too, that's happening now is new as well.
Yeah. And it is moving super fast. You know, if anybody feels like time is moving faster than it ever has, and it was moving really fast a year ago, you know, it really is. I mean, it's moving fast. It's not subjective, I don't think. I think it's both subjective and objective.
Yeah.
I remember when I started, I would ask little kids, this is probably about, I don't know, maybe even 20 years ago. I was asking little kids of friends of mine, does time seem to be moving fast for you? And they would say yes. And when I was a little kid, it did not. I remember a summer that felt like it went on for years, not because I wasn't having a good time, but because it was awesome, you know?
Yeah.
And it just went on and on and on and on. I can still remember it. But time is doing something actually different.
Yeah, and I'm experiencing actually more moments of no time. That's as well. It's like it's going, and it's not so much through my. Doesn't feel like it's through my attention to it, though I know my role in that process is there. It's just me understanding it, but that feeling of linear time and the acceleration that was occurring prior to now was very palpable. And it was like, it was logarithmic curve. You know, it was like the acceleration
Yeah.
going off the charts
Mhm.
past years. But now it's like there's everything. I have these moments where I feel like everything's in suspended animation almost.
Me too.
And, and you just kind of looking around, so like, okay, that's new.
Yeah, yeah, and that's all you
Yeah.
kind of really know, right?
Right.
Is this
That's
is
it.
new.
That's it.
This is
Yeah,
different.
that's it.
Yeah. I do want to add something else here as well that it kept coming to me as we were talking, and it's back. For those who want to practice being that authentic self, practice embodying more of this light and self and practicing it in the world, you have to understand that at this stage, at least, to be uniquely you, you're not going to necessarily receive validation. Okay. To me, this is an important thing to know, that I would have wanted to know, you know, I'm telling this to my past self in the old world. You have to boldly be who you are. You have to be willing to step out and be that. And as Zuzanna and I like to laugh about when we share content, we just get crickets. You have to be okay with that. And that's, if I were going to pick a mode that I was stuck in for a while, it was that. It's like, why is this not resonating with anyone? Why am I not getting any mirroring here, or very, very little? And so there's a tendency to think I must be wrong.
Yes.
And pull back. Something's wrong with me because I'm not getting validated. And we may have talked about this in the last talk, where my realization that, you actually don't want validation from consensus reality, right? That was huge for me.
Yeah.
Because you want some kind of marker from your world that you live in. You want some kind of reflection. You want somebody to say, hey, keep doing what you're doing, at the very least. And that comes. I'm not saying that's not there. I'm just saying that when I first was stepping out with some of this, it was really hard.
Yes.
Because here's the clincher. It might not exist. Who you are and what you want to be, as Jeanne was alluding to a little bit ago, it's not necessarily something that has a name or a title. This is your essence. Get to know your essence, bring it out, practice being bold with it, and you're probably gonna get crickets.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's okay. Just keep doing it. Keep being you. Keep practicing it. And pretty soon you'll, and as Janine was saying earlier, your frequency and that boldness, not hiding the frequency. You can't just vibrate and keep it all to yourself. You need to share your vibration so that you can send it out, and it can be seen and felt, and that which is resonant with you comes into your life.
It's got to be a part of the creative process is putting it out there in whatever form you do, and then you let it go. You don't expect anything. If you get crickets, you go, all right.
And this is the artist in us, right? We're all artists in this way, and that we have to be bold enough to put that, look what I made.
Yeah.
Will you at least put it on the magnet on the refrigerator?
Yeah. What you were saying, Eileen, reminded me suddenly of an astrology reading I had as the receiver of the reading, maybe 30 years ago or something like that. And I remember the astrologer saying to me, if you're not getting at least 6 people telling you you're wrong, you're not being out there and weird enough. And I didn't even know enough to ask, what do you mean? I had no idea what that meant. Now I do. Only just now do I know what that means through, you know, how you're describing it. It describes it perfectly. And it took me all this time after hearing that. And now, you know, gosh, if I'd only just said, you know, what do you mean? That would have been so great. But, you know, we have to know the right questions to ask at the right time too. And I've looked back on things and realized that I haven't known when to ask a pertinent question. Probably like the last time I asked a pertinent question like that was in Sunday school when I was 9. And I said, what about the dinosaurs? If God made the world in, no offense to any Christian watching this, if God made the world in 6 days, what about the dinosaurs? And my Sunday school teacher said, well, we don't ask that question. And I thought, oh, that doesn't sound very good, but I stopped asking questions.
Right, right.
I knew as a 9-year-old that was bogus, but I stopped asking pertinent questions. What do you mean? Makes you
relate to that. Yeah, many times. Hush up. Your questions are not welcome. Yeah.
Don't ask that question.
And your questions and your observations are not welcome.
Yeah. Don't lie about that. That's a lie. You know, what you didn't really see that. You know, don't lie.
Yeah. Well, ladies, we should probably wrap it up.
I'm ready for the bathroom.
I could do that too. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so it looks like we probably went just short of 90 minutes, so that's great. Yeah. We did better this time. I mean, we could talk forever, but we're trying to be a little bit more aware of how much time people have to invest in watching our videos. So thank you, ladies, for this another joyful conversation. And
thank you, Eileen. Thank you. And this was great.
Yeah, and I'll have your links below in the underneath the video. I'll have all of your links in case people are interested in contacting any one of us. We all do our work, and those links will reveal to you what that is. And what else?
More to come.
Yes. Oh, and we have talked about when we get past the cricket stage with our videos, we would love to do like Q&A type Facebook Lives. And, you know, whatever else we want to create as an interactive, you know, format to interact with the people who want to be more involved in our work or what we're sharing or have questions, anything, because again, that's what I would have wanted if it were available to me, right? I would have loved that. So
I think if we go on that premise, we can't do wrong, you know. I mean, we do it for our little young selves back there, you know, and
yeah. And so I'm just making an assumption that people will know because of the other videos, but we're all coming together here as experiencers. That's just a word. It's just a label that says that we have had contact kind of experiences in our lives. We're not so much focused on the story anymore of the contact, but now we're coming together to discuss what we learned and what we're applying and how those experiences contributed to who we are now and what we share, what we do, what we love. Okay, so I just wanted to give that reminder here at the end.
Yeah, that's great.
Thank you.
I love you all, and we'll see you next time.
okay.
Love you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.